to the book of Luke, the Gospel of Luke, chapter 9. The Gospel of Luke, chapter 9. It's a very familiar passage, and when I was in India, I taught this to the pastors in quite in-depth detail, and obviously I can't do that here. And I've even referred to it and maybe preached something similar. So you may recognize some of the things I've said, but some of the things I've taken away and some things I've added. And I pray that today that it will be something that would just help us a little more to help us to draw a little closer to the Lord and maybe even a little bit closer to His truth. Get away from some of the things that some of the man-made doctrines on different passages and different issues in the Bible. And this is definitely, in my opinion, a very important passage when it comes to our relationship with Jesus Christ. I think we could probably put everything right here, throw all the eggs in the basket, and say if we could get this very subject, and we could find the truth in it, and we get this thing and put it to practice, then the ripple effects from that is just going to be wonderful in helping us in so many other avenues in our life. So in Luke chapter 9, we're only going to read 2 verses right there. And Luke chapter 9, verse 23, the Bible says, "Then Jesus said to them all, 'If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. For whosoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whosoever loses his life for my sake will save it.'" If we want to add the next verse, it says, "For what profit it is to a man if he gains the whole world and is himself destroyed or lost. For whosoever is ashamed of me and my words, of him the Son of Man will be ashamed when he comes in his own glory and in his Father's and the holy angels." I will tell you today we're going to take up the subject of take up your cross. And I'm going to tell you, in my humble opinion, even this passage, if it wasn't for God's grace and God's mercy, it would probably be impossible for us to even do this. And today I hope that you leave here with an understanding that the cross may not be what you think it is in your personal life. And if you'll notice in this passage, to me is the danger part of this passage, we see the word if. That means it's conditional. You don't have to do it. And I'm quite convinced there are many Christians today that are walking, that we are doing our own thing and we are not taking up our cross and following Jesus. Now I want you to know for a fact, I'm not talking about taking up Jesus' cross. I'm not talking about taking up your neighbor's cross. I'm talking about taking up your cross. It becomes quite evident when we read the Scripture that each one of us has a cross basically with our name on it. I can't carry yours and you can't carry mine. And many times anyway in the Christian world, we've kind of been led to believe, and I don't know, maybe we just assumed it ourselves, but we've been led to believe a lot of these things that's going on in our life is our crosses to bear. That is not your cross. And I'll touch that just a little bit deeper throughout the passage, but I hope today that you will leave here with an understanding. Again, in Matthew chapter 16, verse 24, you find this passage again. "If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me." And as a Christian, and I have no idea where that came from. I had to change mics between services. so we may have to get rid of this thing. But as a Christian, a mature Christian, when we think about the cross, we discover that the cross is not only the way to life, but it becomes the only way of life. That outside of the cross, there is no life for the Christian, not a productive life anyway. And when I was in India, before I went, and this has been several years ago, I was fortunate to meet with a gentleman, part of the Southern Baptist Convention, and I got to spend a few days with him, and he had written a study, and one of them dealt with this very subject. And I remember he allowed me to take his thoughts and his notes to India with me, and it helped me also, and it really caused me to even dig a little bit deeper in the Word, because he was bringing some ideas that I hadn't even thought about when it comes to our cross. Because like I said, I'd always been, or at least I'd always thought, that these hardships in my life was my cross. Sometimes, my wife was in the early service, I told her, I said, sometimes in my married life I begin to think maybe the cross I had to bear was her. And of course she knows me well enough, she just grins because she knows I was just joking, but really I'm not. And since she's not in here, I'll just go ahead. But it goes way beyond those things. And what happens with the cross, I will tell you, because we have become a society that really wants things easy. That's the flesh. That's the nature. We want it easy. Nothing wrong with wanting it easy, but if that becomes our focus, is trying to find every way of making even our walk with Christ easy, then we're going to completely miss the mark. Because first of all, I want you to know, nothing about a cross is easy or comfortable. Nothing. I don't care how you want to look it up. I don't care what dictionary you want to use. Nothing about it is easy. And as a new beginner that has just now come to the Lord, we find that salvation, whenever it enters into our life, what it does, it will lift the load of sin from our back only to replace it with the cross. Now we better get this, because life may not always be a bed of roses for us. And we may not think that it is, but compared to the rest of the world, most of us, our lives are a bed of roses. It's much easier than the majority of the Christian world. So we have to ask the question, what does it mean to take up your cross? What's Jesus even talking about? And some of us may know, but the majority of us probably don't. It just becomes a statement we make, and we really don't even know what it means. So what is the nature of this? Well, I remember in this guy's study, because there's no way that you're going to be able to take up your cross without one word in particular, and that's commitment. Paul will back this up. But we don't even need Paul to back it up. Jesus is telling us that we must do this on a daily basis. But he used a word that I really like. And with the medical background and the medical knowledge, that's where my mind went immediately. He used the word, when he said commitment, he said a prescribed commitment. So when I hear the word prescribed, I don't know what you hear, but I hear prescription. And I know that when a prescription, that if you've got something ailing you, something bothering you, whether you got the flu or you got some type of bacterial infection or whatever, you go to the doctor and he says, okay, you need this. He writes you a script or a prescription. And he hands it to you. Now I will tell you, it's up to you, and it's totally up to you if you want to fill it or not. But what your doctor is telling you, if you want to be healthy, And if you want to regain your strength and get back to functioning in life, going back to work or whatever it is you're doing, if you want to get back as a functioning adult, then you need to take this script and take it to the pharmacy, and you need to have this thing filled. In other words, He's prescribing you this medicine to help you. Well, I will tell you, Jesus, when it comes to taking the cross, He has written you and I a script in order for us to have a healthy, productive Christian life, and that script is take up your cross. He says if you don't take up your cross, then you're going to miss what I'm trying to do. And actually, if you don't take up your cross, you're going to find yourself in a world of trouble. And listen, I got over it a few years ago because I fall into the same trap that most preachers fall into. We want to preach a sermon that you're going to amen. We want to preach a sermon that you're going to get excited and clap, maybe even shout a little bit, because we understand if we can get you excited and get you feeling good, then it's going to make me feel good, and then that message will really preach. Well, this message won't preach. You're not going to get excited. And I had to come to grips with it several years ago that it's not my responsibility to preach you a sermon that makes you excited. You know why? Because it's not about you. Might as well say amen anyway. It's not about us. It's about Him. And I will tell you, if it takes a man standing on the pulpit or in front of a class to teach something or to say something to encourage you and get you excited, if it takes a man to do that, there is a bigger man standing right out that door that's ready to take it away, and he will take it away, and his name is the devil. He will take it away from you. But I will tell you, we get the truths of God's Word ingrained in us and practiced in us, and we begin to allow these things to work in us. I'm telling you, God will give you the encouragement, the joy, and the peace that surpasses understanding. He will give us the joy unspeakable and full of glory. And here's the thing about it. The man standing out there waiting on you, called the devil, cannot take that away from you. The devil didn't give it to you. The devil can't take it away. The man didn't give it to you. The devil can't take it away. The only way the devil can take it is if you give it to him. So you don't need to wait for a sermon to get you excited about God and about serving Him. We better get this in us. Boy, I'm telling you, if things really start turning south for us, we better have something other than what a man's going to be able to say. Let me tell you, we better get excited about the work we're doing, and we don't need to get excited just because Donald Trump's in office. Because he may be getting ready to do something none of us are going to like. We cannot place anything in any man, whether it's in the political world or whether it's in the Christian world. Our life, that's the reason I say our cross is not the way to life, it becomes a way of life. So in other words, the Lord here is writing a script for you and I to take up our cross. Only thing that we have to do is pick it up and take it. And according to the Word of God, according to Jesus, every Christian has his or her own cross waiting for him. A cross that has been determined, a cross that has been appointed. Every one of us has our own cross waiting for us. Now, it may have the similarities, and we may all do similar things, but I will tell you, God has a path and a pattern for each and every one of us, unique to us, that we will do to carry our cross that may be different from someone else. And I will tell you, your cross are not your hardships. It's not your sorrows. It's not your disappointments. It's not sickness. It's not misfortune. It's not because you don't have money, or it's not because you do have money. Your cross is whatever it cost you to serve Jesus Christ, to actively be involved in the work of His body and to be personally involved in the salvation of the others. That's what taking up your cross is all about. It's not about things that's happening to me. It's not about the devil attacking me. That's not your cross. It's not your misfortunes or the temptations or the hurts. That's not your cross. According to Paul, these are probably just thorns in the flesh. But it's not your cross. And common sense will tell us it's not our cross, because do not even the non-believers have temptation and trials and misfortunes and all these things? The difference between a non-believer and the believer is the cross. That is the difference. And Jesus is telling us that we must take up our cross. And whenever, there needs to be a litmus test in our life. There really does in our Christian life. And if you don't, then I want you to look at your life today and look at it, examine it closely, because the characteristics of a Christian that is taking up his cross, these things will be present. First of all is a denial of self. Now, I'm not talking Martin Luther type stuff. I'm not talking about how hard you can make it on yourself. I'm not talking about you have to fast 4, 5, 6 days a week. I'm not talking that you must get out of a comfortable bed and lay on the floor. I'm not talking about you take the air conditioner and turn it on a cool 68 and turn it off till you're burning up. I am not talking about that. But I am talking about denying yourself and putting the things of God and the things that God would have you to do above what you would think. Not what, or even what you would do. A denial of self. You have to. Folks, I'm here to tell you, this name it and claim it and God wants it all, that you to have it all, that message will only fly in America. It will not fly anywhere else. That message will not fly to the billion of people that don't even have clean drinking water at night time. See, that message will only fly whenever you've got all your needs being met. But not only a denial of self, but there'll be a rejection, rather, of society. See, the world and the church, God of the universe and the world, they're going in opposite directions. A person explained it this way: a Christian is not going down the river in a boat. A Christian life is like trying to paddle upstream in a boat. You're going against the world. You're going against society. You're trying to go against the flesh. So it's going to be, and when you do that, it's going to be a rejection of society. And I will tell you, the Christians in America are beginning to see that because they are a Christian, that they're no longer accepted in this nation. So we're beginning to feel the effects of this. When we start seeing Christianity played out in its purest form, society is going to reject us. It hated Christ, it's going to hate us. He made us that promise. But you know what else? A characteristic of taking up your cross is a recognition of Jesus. In other words, He's going to be saved. He's going to be seen. He's going to be the focus of it. And I will tell you, when Jesus becomes the focus, when we learn how to deny ourselves and we learn to put Him forward and we learn to become a slave to Him and we become a servant to Him and it's all about Jesus, I will tell you, then it puts things into motion, because now if you do that, then people will recognize Him. And when you're doing that, that means you're lifting Him up. And He'd already told us that when He is lifted up, He will begin to draw all men to Him. So that results not only in a stronger church, but that results in people being saved. not because I'm doing something great, but simply I've taken up my cross and I'm doing what it takes to carry forth the message of lifting up Jesus Christ to the world. And these are just going to be a product, a fruit. So we see that there's a script being written from the Lord to each one of us, and that script says that you must take up your cross, and I don't know if there is such a word for 24 times a day. Maybe you can help me out. I don't know. I don't know if there is such a, you know, you get medicine sometime, you take it Q 6 hours or whatever. I don't know if there is anything for 24 hours a day, but if there is, that's what's on the script, that you need to do this Q 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's refillable. It's always refillable because the mandate is always there that you must take up your cross. But if you're going to take up your cross, then there's another area that we have to, of commitment that we have to investigate, and it's an area couldn't even find words to describe it. But if we're going to have that type of self-denial and that type of rejection of society and be able to live through it and to be able to lift Christ up at all times, then it's going to take such a huge, deep level of commitment on each and every one of us in order to carry that through. There's only one event in the Bible, and it was Simon of Cyrene who was enlisted to carry someone else's cross. Outside of that, there is nowhere that you're going to find that any one of us would ever carry anyone else's cross. The cross is yours, and it's voluntary. And I will tell you, because it's voluntary, that's where the danger comes in. That means that you don't have to carry it. And I'm telling you, there are millions of Christians not carrying their cross today. But the price of refusal is beyond our imagination. Jesus told us in Matthew chapter 10 that he that taketh not up his cross and follows after me, he is not worthy of me. If we don't do this, Jesus said, you're not worthy of me. So here we are. We stand at a crossroads. And many times in our Christian life, and I know I come from the deep South and very conservative values, and I was brought up in a lot of tradition, and I was always told there'll be a point somewhere after you accept Christ in your life, you'll come to a crossroads where Satan is going to tempt you and try to make you believe that you're really not a Christian. And you're going to just have to believe. I don't know if I really buy into that or not, because I believe we come to a crossroads, and I'm telling you, we are at a crossroads today in the American church. We are at a crossroads today in the worldwide church, and that crossroad, there are two paths. And I don't believe it's Satan there that's tempting us. I believe that God has brought us to a crossroads, and He's telling us there's two paths. One path takes the way of the cross, and the next path takes the way of the world. And we look down at the world and we see all the glamour and all the loose living, and down that world we see ourselves, and we're trying to make life easy for us, and we're trying to do everything just to please the flesh if we're not very careful, and that life looks like a good life. It's easier to stay home and watch TV than to come to church. It's easier to go to the ball game than to come to a men's meeting. It's easier to do this than to have prayer time. It's easier to have picnics and family outings than it is prayer and devotion in our home. It's easier, it's more fun. And all of this is going on, and we're there at that crossroad, and if we're not careful, we're traveling the path that looks easy to us. But I am here to tell you that path may not look as good, or it may not be as good as you think it is. And then you look down the other path, and that other path, if you're carrying your cross, and that's the path you take, it has nothing but a cross down that path. Because it's all about Jesus. So we're here at this road. I was reminded about the rich young ruler. And this is not this is not a shout against money. This is not a sermon against having luxury. This is not a sermon about not being about comfortable. This is a sermon about taking up your cross and keeping our focus right. But I'm reminded of an event in the Bible, the rich young ruler. And this rich young ruler, he wanted to see Jesus. Actually, it almost gives you implied that he was pressing to see Him. He wanted to see Jesus. He wanted to run after Him. But there lay His cross. And we know, because we know the story, that the wealth, this was a very wealthy man, the wealth of the world was where his real joy was coming from. And now here he is faced with this, and he's faced to pick up his cross and follow Jesus or not. And he refused to take up his cross. Here's a very sad part of this story. He refused, so he passed out of the life of Christ, and we never hear anything else about it. Folks, we serve a real God that's got a real set of standards, a real blueprint called the Bible. And we can try to change it up any way we want to, but it's not going to work. We have to be trained to deny ourselves. Because the natural thing for the flesh is to do the opposite. So every day we have to deny ourselves, take up our cross, and join Jesus, or we will refuse and join Satan. It's your personal decision to make. Are you going to take up your cross? It's going to be painful. It's going to hurt. Not going to be comfortable. But even in that, if anybody knows me, I love to barter. Man, I see the thing about bartering. I may have an item worth $10 and your item may be worth $1,000, and we may barter it out, or we may trade it out, whatever. It doesn't matter. There is no winners and losers. Well, Jesus almost has a trading, a bartering going on. He said, even a sense of the difficulties that we will have in taking up our cross, he says it this way. You give me your stuff, and you take up on my stuff. And we'll find out. Because he said, for my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Even in this painful thing that the Lord is asking us to do, and He is asking, you choose whether to do it or not. He will still provide a path for us to be able to do this, and He will help us do this. But make no bones about it, we will carry our cross. And according to Jesus, and then even Paul, because Paul talks about that we are to sacrifice this old man daily. And Jesus says in this passage, in Luke's writing, he says, daily you must make this commitment. And when you begin to realize what's involved in taking up your cross, and that it demands there be a self-denial, and learning to live with society that may not like you. You have to do this every day. It's not like the day you first got saved. Boy, how many people can remember when they first got saved? Oh my goodness. The church I went to when I first got saved, I couldn't get enough of God's people. I couldn't get enough of His Word. I couldn't get enough of prayer. There was nothing. The church I went to had a daycare in the basement. In that basement, we had a septic system that had to be pumped. And if anybody's ever fooled around with a system that has to be pumped, you're always working on it, and it's a nasty job. There is nothing not nasty about it. And I don't know how many times I'd have to go in there and change some of that sewer line out, and a lot of times that stuff would go everywhere, and a lot of times all over me. I didn't care. All that I could see and think about was how so in love I was with Jesus. But at some point in time, I got tired. And I just had to sit down. I wonder how many of us are sitting down today. Oh, we know the Bible. We know what it says. We have the right words. But there is nothing in our life that is even remotely close to us taking up our cross. We still love the Lord, but He's not our first love. And in case you're not following me, when I'm talking about take up your cross, I'm not talking about taking up what Jesus was carrying. I'm not even talking about a wooden beam. Jesus was... It was never in question. He was going to come and go to a cross. That was not in question. He was going to die, and on the third day He was going to rise again. That was never in question. He was going to walk the earth, and 40 or 50 days later, 40 days later, He was going to ascend to the Father. That was never in question. I'm not talking about that cross that Jesus carried to offer redemption. I'm talking about the cross He is asking you and I some 2,000 years later. He said, here, He says, in Roger, 2019, Roger, I am prescribing you, in order for you to have a healthy, Christian, productive life, you must take up the cross. You must take up your cross. And you have to do this every day. Because if you don't, what happens? Life happens, and we become discouraged, and we sit down. How many times have we said, boy, you can tell that person just got saved. Look how on fire for God they are. Oh my goodness, why would we say that about a brand new Christian, and seasoned Christians were not on fire for God? Because our cross is sitting. It's not being taken. And so we had to dummy that statement down a little bit and say, well, this health issue I have is just a cross I have to bear. That's not your cross. My family is mean to me. That's just my cross. Listen, I get up and go to church every morning. That is my cross to bear. I have to sit and listen to this pastor. That's my cross. How many times can people make us happy or make us sad? I mean, can absolutely change your direction of the day that quick. And I'm not talking about initiative. I mean, you will get fighting mad. You hate the world. Next thing you know, your entire week you've hated the world. And I'm going to tell you, I can hate the world better than any of you guys can. I can get really ill about life better than any of you. And there's only one person that can turn me that quick, and that's my wife. I can be on top of the world, and I can come home and she's upset. I hate the world. Except she can be upset and everything's fine. I get upset. I hate everybody. So I told the Lord, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. The only thing I can say, you said we would become one. My wife and I would become one. The only thing I can tell you, I'm going to have to get that part of my life fixed. Take up your cross. And I'm telling you, if the world, if someone is coming and taking all of this away from you, and you find yourself just completely in a state of hate, and you hate everything and everyone, I am telling you, you are not carrying your cross. Because if you carry the cross of Jesus Christ, there will be joy and peace. These things will be seen in your life. And I am telling you, when your life should be falling apart, and it's not falling apart, and the non-believer, even the believer, sees it, because they see that you have joy when you shouldn't have joy. And in other words, that there you're already lifting up Christ without even knowing it, and you're beginning to draw people to Him, and the attention is going to Him. And I'm telling you, we'll start seeing a mighty move of God. We will see not a revival. We don't need a revival. We need a great awakening in this country. We need a powerful move of God. It's not going to happen if we don't take up our cross. Because if we refuse to take up our cross, then the ripple effects, then all of these things that are bothering us are making mountains out of molehills. I'm telling you, the church is arguing about things that are childish. And the people are dying and going down. It's nothing but it's evidence that we are not taking up our cross. I know for the last few years I've made a statement. I didn't even know how to explain my statement, but I was making a statement that the devil's playing chess and we're playing checkers. But I wouldn't let that go. I wanted to know, what is the devil doing that he's considered chess, and what are we doing that's considered checkers? Well, it was quite comical, but about 2 weeks ago my wife sent me a YouTube with a song. You know what the name of the song was? The devil's playing chess and the church is playing checkers. Now, do you know what's going on? Because Satan don't care for us to win the battle. I'm here to tell you, Satan doesn't care if we win the battle to the Second Amendment. He doesn't care if we win the battle to abortion. He doesn't care if we win the battle to homosexual marriage. I'm telling you, Satan's playing chess. We're playing checkers. What is Satan scared about? He's going to be really scared if we learn how to take up our cross and follow Jesus. If we take up our cross and follow Jesus, let me tell you, we will change the world in which we are living in. We will get the church back to where the church, we will start seeing the book of Acts church being played out right before our very eyes, because we're going to be part of it. They were taking up their cross and following Him. They understood it meant their life. They understood when Jesus said a cross, they understood, they knew what it looked like. They would come into the towns and there may be a mile, 2 miles of people just hanging on a cross. They understood what the pain and the commitment that was going to have to be involved. But I will tell you, if we can learn to take up our cross, then I will tell you, then even that, the ripple effects in our life are going to be wonderful. Yeah, problems are going to happen, but they're just not going to overtake us. We're going to be more than conquerors. And when we can do this, then we will realize we're in the game. We're playing the same game that Satan's plays. He might be playing chess, but we're playing chess too. And I'm telling you, we will win. We will win if we fight the battle according to the Word of God.